In a world where the mind is shackled by noise and illusion, there exists a hidden key, one long buried beneath layers of time, dogma, and deliberate suppression. It is not made of gold or silver, nor etched into ancient stone. No, this key lies within you. And it guards a gate to perception beyond the veil. Have you ever felt the pull of something more, an invisible current that whispers truths no one dares speak aloud? Perhaps you've glimpsed it in a dream, felt it in moments of stillness, or heard it echo in the space between thoughts. What if I told you that the Hermetic masters, the true magicians of consciousness, discovered a forbidden method to awaken the most sacred and mysterious organ in the human body? The pineal gland, known to the ancients as the seat of the soul, the third eye, or the star gate, is no mere biological anomaly. It is a divine interface, a cosmic antenna. And the Hermetics, guardians of secret wisdom passed down from Egypt to Alexandria, held techniques so potent that they were hidden in riddles, wrapped in symbolism, and encoded in silence, for fear of what the uninitiated might do with such power. This isn't just about awakening a gland. This is about unlocking a dimension of yourself that has been dormant for lifetimes. In this video, we will journey through the veils of history and consciousness to uncover the forbidden method used by Hermetic adepts to activate the pineal gland. We will explore its mystical origins, decode the sacred geometry of the mind, and unveil a practical technique you can begin today, if you are truly ready. But be warned, this knowledge changes you. Once revealed, the old world may no longer satisfy. The shadows may stir. The illusions may crumble. So, are you ready to see beyond the veil? Let us begin. Long before modern science mapped the human brain, the earliest mystics of ancient Egypt spoke of an inner chamber, the abaton, where the soul communed with the divine. In the hushed halls of the Temple of Thoth at Hermopolis, initiates studied arcane papyri that described the pineal gland not as a vestigial remnant, but as a crystalline prism of awareness. Through hieroglyphs and allegory, these priests hinted at a drop of starlight nestled between the hemispheres, capable of refracting truth itself. This secret knowledge was later transmitted to the Hellenistic alchemists of Alexandria, who cloaked their teachings in the venerable texts of Hermes Trismegistus. To them, the body was an alchemical vessel, and the pineal gland its philosopher's stone, a living catalyst for transmutation of the soul. As the Roman Empire waned and the old mysteries were suppressed by orthodox dogma, the Hermetic arts retreated into hidden enclaves. In the medieval period, alchemists such as Paracelsus and Agrippa alluded to the inner eye in coded treatises, warning that its power could eclipse any earthly throne. They wrote in layered symbolism, roses within circles, serpents entwining chalices, so that only the truly devoted might decrypt the path. During the Renaissance, these symbols resurfaced in the work of Giordano Bruno, who risked his life to proclaim that human consciousness was boundless. His ultimate fate, burned at the stake for heresy, stands as testament to how fiercely the guardians of conventional reality sought to silence those who dared reveal the gates of perception. Philosophically, the Hermetics understood the pineal gland through the lens of as above, so below. Just as the cosmos orbits around its central sun, so the mind revolves around its inner sun, the point of awakening. In Platonic dialogues, one finds echoes of this truth. Plato's cave allegory describes prisoners entranced by shadows until one escapes into the blinding light, only to return and struggle to convey the vision of the realm beyond. This allegory, veiled as it was in philosophical discourse, served as a coded map for the initiate seeking to transcend sensory limitation through the pineal lens. Why, then, was this potent method hidden? The Hermetic teachers believed that untrained minds, adrift in ego and fear, would misuse the gift, fracturing both self and society. They saw, with eerie prescience, how power untempered by wisdom could give rise to tyranny, madness, or fanaticism. Thus, each teaching was buried within layers of myth, guarded by symbolic gates that required precise keys, disciplined breath, sacred geometry, and the purity of intent. The few who persevered through ritual, study, and inner purification earned the right to glimpse a universe where matter and spirit are one. Over centuries, the pineal remained shrouded in mystery, whispered about in secret brotherhoods and illuminated only in fleeting flashes by intrepid seekers. Yet its resonance never faded. Today, as science rediscovers trace amounts of light-sensitive proteins within the gland, and as mindfulness and psychedelic research illuminate altered states, a window reopens. We stand at the threshold of a renaissance, where Hermetic wisdom and modern inquiry converge, ready to reclaim an ancient bridge to higher knowing. To truly grasp the forbidden Hermetic method for activating the pineal gland, one must first step beyond the boundaries of conventional thinking. This is not a linear instruction manual or a checklist of steps. It is a sacred journey, an alchemical process that transforms the initiate from within. The pineal gland, to the Hermetic masters, was not just an endocrine organ, it was a sacred relic left by the divine architect, a crystalline gateway between the dimensions of mind and spirit. Hidden at the geometric center of the brain, surrounded by cerebrospinal fluid and shaped like a pine cone, the ancient symbol of enlightenment, it was revered as the Eye of Ra, the Eye of Providence, the Door of Heaven. The first and most essential principle in the Hermetic tradition was resonance. They believed that the entire universe is made of vibration, oscillating patterns of light and sound, and the pineal gland was designed to perceive these higher harmonics. It is, quite literally, a frequency receptor. Modern science hints at this with its discovery of calcite microcrystals in the gland, which possess piezoelectric properties, meaning they can convert mechanical pressure into electromagnetic energy. But the Hermetics knew this long ago, not through microscopes, but through mystical attunement. They taught that through specific sounds, intoned with breath, intention, and alignment, the pineal gland could be struck, like a tuning fork, resonating with the higher octaves of reality. These tones were not sung randomly. They were vowels, the primal sounds of creation. E, the sound of divine clarity. O, the deep call to the infinite void. H, the breath of awakening. Each tone corresponded to an inner element and a sacred frequency. These were chanted in dimly lit chambers, often in solitude, sometimes in groups of 3 or 7. The Hermetic adepts would focus the sound toward the center of the head, visualizing it spiraling upward through the spinal column, following the path of the caduceus, the twin serpents of Hermes, representing the dual currents of consciousness and energy. As the chant deepened, many would experience a vibration in the forehead, a pulsing behind the eyes, or a sudden burst of inner vision. Breathwork was the second sacred tool, what the Hermetics called the breath of the Sphinx. This was not ordinary breathing, but a coiled, serpentine breath, a rhythmic inhalation and exhalation that mimicked the spiraling of galaxies, the dance of DNA, the flight of Kundalini. It began in the belly, rose through the heart, and culminated in the crown. With each breath, the energy was gathered and directed upward through the spine, clearing the energetic pathways and fueling the awakening of the pineal. This breath was often synchronized with movement, mudras or hand positions that conducted energy, and body postures that opened the subtle centers. Some texts even describe the practitioner sitting in a specific geometric configuration, spine erect, tongue against the roof of the mouth, eyes half closed in inward gaze, forming a living antenna between the earth and the heavens. Yet breath and sound alone were not enough. The third and most elusive aspect of the Hermetic method was sacred stillness. The adepts understood that the pineal gland is awakened not just by action, but by the cessation of noise. In this deep inner silence, deeper than sleep, deeper than thought, the pineal becomes a reflective pool. Stillness allows it to receive the whisper of divine instruction. This state, known to the ancients as kenosis, union with the One, could not be forced. It arrived only when the practitioner emptied themselves completely, releasing fear, desire, identity, and even the need to awaken. In that surrender, the eye between the eyes would blink open, not with strain, but with grace. The Hermetics often spoke in paradox. To awaken the eye, close all others. To see, you must become blind. To know the truth, forget what you believe. These riddles were not meant to confuse, but to deconstruct the rational mind, which acts as a gatekeeper to mystical perception. The pineal gland does not respond to logic, it responds to purity of being. And so, the initiate had to become as a child, empty of judgment, full of wonder. When these elements aligned, resonant sound, spiral breath, and silent stillness, something miraculous occurred. Light, soft and pulsing, would begin to form in the inner vision. Patterns would dance across the mind's eye, sometimes golden geometry, sometimes radiant faces or celestial landscapes. Time would collapse, and the practitioner would feel themselves expand beyond the limits of the body, into a vast, intelligent field of consciousness. Some described hearing music, like distant choirs or the humming of stars. Others spoke of receiving direct revelations, visions of their soul's path, or even communication with higher beings. This was not fantasy. For the Hermetic masters, this was the true reality, the one hidden behind the illusion of material form. And they believed that the pineal gland was the bridge to this realm. But that bridge could only be crossed by those who approached with reverence, discipline, and inner clarity. That is why the method was encoded in allegory, hidden in temples, and whispered only to those who had proven themselves worthy through patience, humility, and the inner fire of seeking. To delve deeper into the Hermetic method of pineal activation, we must now explore what lies beyond the foundational practices, the deeper architecture of the inner temple. If breath, sound, and stillness are the outer layers of the ritual, then the inner mechanism is shaped by sacred geometry, mental visualization, and energetic alignment. These were not optional refinements, they were essential elements in the precise science of soul alchemy. The Hermetics understood that the universe, from the orbit of stars to the spiral of seashells, was constructed through geometry. To awaken the pineal gland was to reconfigure one's own internal temple in harmony with this cosmic blueprint. Among the most revered forms was the Merkaba, a star tetrahedron symbolizing the union of spirit and matter, light and shadow, the ascending and descending forces of consciousness. Hermetic adepts would visualize this geometric structure surrounding their body as they meditated. Not just as a symbol, but as a living vehicle of light. When activated, it was said to spin around the practitioner, creating a vortex that drew celestial energies inward, focusing them toward the pineal gland like sunlight through a magnifying glass. This wasn't imagination, it was directed intention, trained over time to become precise and powerful. The pineal responded to this geometric field like a seed to sunlight. It began to glow. But there was more. Light was not just something to be seen, it was to be experienced. Advanced practitioners spoke of witnessing an inner illumination unlike any external light, brighter than the sun, yet soft, intelligent, and alive. This light of lights did not shine upon the world, it revealed the hidden world behind it. It was the divine language before words, the blueprint of form before flesh. Within this light, one could see sacred symbols unfolding, often the flower of life, the infinite spiral, or the eye within the triangle, each one carrying profound meanings that bypassed intellect and struck directly at the soul. It was also within this light that encounters occurred. Hermetics did not awaken the pineal simply to experience altered states, they did so to commune with the divine intelligences that dwell beyond the veil. Some of these were described as radiant beings, composed of translucent color and sound. Others appeared as archetypal presences, Thoth, Hermes, Sophia, or unnamed guides bearing scrolls of golden light. These were not hallucinations but conscious exchanges, as real to the initiate as waking life, yet vibrating at a higher octave. In these encounters, visions would be received, sometimes cryptic, sometimes clear, always transformative. One did not return from such meetings unchanged. Still, the Hermetics warn that not all who awaken the eye are ready to see. The pineal gland, when opened prematurely or without spiritual preparation, could act as a mirror reflecting the subconscious in raw, unfiltered form. This could include unhealed trauma, hidden fears, or unresolved karmic imprints. To look into the mirror of the soul without preparation, they said, was to face the abyss, and some were not ready for what stared back. That is why the ancient schools insisted on purification, through fasting, ethical living, disciplined thought, and emotional regulation. Only when the vessel was cleansed could the sacred fire burn without consuming the initiate. Another often misunderstood aspect of pineal activation is the myth that it's a one-time event, a dramatic explosion of insight. The Hermetics taught otherwise. Awakening was not a peak, but a spiral, deepening in layers over time. Just as a lotus unfolds petal by petal, so too does the pineal reveal dimensions of perception slowly, in accordance with the seeker's readiness. One may begin with inner tingling or flashes of color behind closed eyes. Later, symbols appear. Then visions. Eventually, if the practice is sustained, the veil thins permanently, and the boundaries between the physical and the subtle dissolve. This gradual unfolding is what the Hermetics called the great work. It was not about escaping the world, but transforming one's perception of it, turning the profane into the sacred, the ordinary into the divine. The pineal gland was the inner sun that made this transmutation possible. It did not just show one the spiritual realm, it illuminated the hidden light within all things. That light could then be brought back into daily life, infusing action, speech, and thought with a clarity that transcended ego. In closing this layer of the teaching, it is crucial to remember, the Hermetic path is not a game, nor is the pineal gland a party trick. It is a sacred bridge between realms, a divine technology woven into our very biology. To activate it is to reclaim your divine inheritance, but it is also to accept the responsibility of sight. For once the veil is lifted, ignorance can no longer be an excuse. Now that the hidden framework has been unveiled, we step from mystery into method. While the Hermetics veiled their teachings in symbols and riddles, they also left behind fragments of practice, sacred patterns that, when aligned, begin the process of awakening the pineal gland. These rituals are not quick fixes. They are not hacks. They are keys, and the door they open leads inward, not outward. What follows is not just technique, but a spiritual posture, a way of being that harmonizes the inner and outer self until the veils begin to thin. Before any activation can occur, the vessel must be purified. Hermetic practitioners emphasized physical and energetic cleansing. This began with fasting, not for deprivation, but for clarity. Fasting calms the senses and quiets the digestive fire, redirecting energy to higher centers of awareness. A simple practice is to observe silence and abstain from food for 1 day, drinking only water infused with lemon or herbs such as sage or rosemary. These were considered mind-clearing herbs in Hermetic alchemy, said to awaken subtle perception and remove energetic fog. In tandem, reduce your exposure to heavy electromagnetic fields, artificial light, processed foods, and most importantly, mental chatter. For the pineal gland is a sensitive receiver, and when overloaded by static, it cannot hear the voice of the divine. Begin a digital fast for a day. Create sacred space in your home, dim the lights, burn frankincense or sandalwood, and place a candle in front of you to represent your inner flame. Sit in a cross-legged position or in a straight-backed chair with your spine tall. Close your eyes gently. Place the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth, just behind your front teeth. This completes the energetic circuit, as taught in Taoist alchemy and echoed in Hermetic texts. Begin with deep belly breathing, inhaling slowly for 4 counts, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding again for 4. This is known as box breathing, and it centers the mind. After 3 minutes, transition into spiral breathwork. As you inhale, visualize energy coiling at the base of your spine like a golden serpent. As you exhale, see it rise through the spine, moving in a spiraling motion around the vertebral column until it reaches the point between your eyebrows. Repeat this process for 10 to 15 minutes. You may begin to feel tingling at the base of the skull, behind the eyes, or even pressure in the forehead. These are signals of awakening. Now introduce sacred sound. Hermetic adepts understood that certain frequencies reverberate through the subtle body and strike the pineal gland like a divine bell. Begin to chant the vowel sound E on your exhale, drawing the sound from your solar plexus and aiming it internally toward the center of your brain. Feel the vibration rise from your chest, up through your throat, and into your skull. As you continue, visualize the sound coalescing into a violet or indigo light within the pineal gland. After several rounds of this, switch to OOOH and then AH each for 5 minutes. These sounds activate different energy centers and create harmonic resonance within the cranial cavity. Many practitioners report flashes of light, spontaneous visions, or the sense of a subtle presence during this practice. Do not chase these sensations. Simply observe. The pineal opens in its own time, and the more surrendered your mind, the more profound the response. When the sound practice ends, return to silence. Now, imagine a radiant sphere of golden white light in the center of your brain. This is your inner sun. Visualize it glowing gently, pulsing with intelligence. With every inhale, the light expands. With every exhale, it becomes more refined, more conscious. Allow this light to illuminate your mind, your body, and your emotional field. Sit in this visualization for as long as you can, anchoring the sensation of inner light. Over time, this practice builds a field around you, a Merkaba of consciousness, that strengthens your pineal response and allows spiritual impressions to emerge organically. When your practice ends, ground yourself. Touch the earth. Eat warm, whole food. Journal your experience. This is critical. The Hermetics did not see visions as fantasies, they were messages from the inner planes, encoded in symbolic language. Write them down. Reflect. Ask, what is this showing me about my path? Also, be prepared for shifts in perception. You may notice dreams become vivid, synchronicities increase, or emotional patterns begin to rise for healing. This is natural. As the pineal awakens, it floods your system with higher light, which brings shadows to the surface. Embrace this. It is the process of purification in motion. Many seekers make the mistake of forcing the process, seeking visions, obsessing over results, or turning pineal activation into a performance. The Hermetic teaching is clear: effort must become devotion. It is not the will that opens the gate, but the surrender of will. Others mistake early sensations for full awakening and stop their practice prematurely. But this is a lifelong path. The pineal gland is not a switch to be flipped, it is a temple to be tended. Stay humble. Stay curious. Practice consistently, not intensely. As the Hermetic said, the slow fire refines the gold. The path we have walked together in this exploration is not simply a trail of information, but a corridor of remembrance, an echo from your own soul, reminding you of something ancient, something sacred, something that perhaps you have always known. The Hermetic method of pineal activation is not a technique to be mastered once and forgotten. It is a living relationship, a dance between your breath and your being, between silence and sound, between the world you see and the world waiting to be revealed. As we've seen, the pineal gland is far more than a dormant organ or mystical metaphor. It is the eye of divine perception, the still point where the finite meets the infinite. It is your antenna to the cosmos, your gateway to visions, to truth, to the eternal self that has watched silently behind your eyes since the beginning. The Hermetics knew this. They guarded this knowledge not out of arrogance or secrecy, but out of reverence, for they understood that divine power given to an unready vessel can distort, fracture, or even destroy. And so they spoke in symbols, wrote in riddles, and passed the key hand to hand through generations of seekers who were willing to walk the inner path of fire, shadow, and light. Now, the veil is thinner than ever. Humanity stands on the edge of a new remembering. Science begins to peer into ancient mysteries. Energy and consciousness are being redefined. And yet, despite all the noise and technology and progress, the true awakening begins as it always has, in the stillness of your own soul. You do not need to climb a mountain or chant in a temple to begin this journey. You only need a willingness to see. To truly see. Not with the eyes, but with the eye, the one that sees not just appearances, but essence. And so, I leave you with this reflection. What if the world you live in, the reality you accept without question, is only a sliver of what truly exists? What if, all this time, the greatest treasure has been hidden not in a far-off land or ancient scroll, but in the center of your own brain, waiting for your attention, your silence, your devotion? The Hermetics would say, as above, so below. As within, so without. If that is true, and I believe it is, then to awaken the pineal gland is to awaken the mirror of the cosmos within you. To activate it is to remember your origin as a being of light walking through the illusion of flesh. And once awakened, nothing looks the same again. You begin to see the golden thread in all things, the sacred geometry in a leaf, the divine mathematics in a sunrise, the silent intelligence behind every breath. You move from being a wanderer to a witness. From a seeker to a seer. So the question remains, are you ready to see? Not for a moment, not as a thrill, but as a way of life? Are you ready to walk the Hermetic path, not outwardly, with robes or rituals, but inwardly, with integrity, stillness, and sacred fire? If so, begin. Begin now. Begin with breath. With sound. With silence. And most of all, with trust. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If this resonated with you, if you feel stirred, share this light with someone you know is seeking. Comment below with your thoughts, your questions, your visions. Subscribe for more ancient wisdom decoded for the awakening soul. And above all, keep your inner eye open. Until next time, walk with light, and see through the veil.